Thinking about you, found myself wishing you were there, just to be with me.
10:35, right on time on this 14th day. It's a Pi Day in the heart of the River Bend. The Village of Roxana announced that the construction of a new senior Cedar Citizen Center, if I can speak today, is coming our way to the South Roxana community. TJ Callahan on the line now. How are we doing, sir?
How are you, sir? Doing fantastic. CJ, thank you so much for all the time you do for all the communities.
Oh, I appreciate it, man. And what I appreciate is your guys' work ethic over in South Roxana. And, you know, you guys really have a great team that puts together so many great projects and really develops and moves things along. And just like the Senior Citizen Center, I promise, TJ, I get paid to do this job. I just can't talk today. This is really cool.
It really is. It's a new investment to our town. You know, it's awesome. You know, we did the senior citizens building. You know, we were able to get the grant that way, and it's just a way to try to put the community together.
Well, and that's what I think is so incredible. And now, how long have you been personally working on this project?
So me, I've been going to meetings, but me personally involved is just since September of last year, actually August.
Wow. And so this has been a developing thing. How long has it taken to get to this point?
Almost 10 years. Almost 10 years. It's been awesome to see all the different people involved. Bob Cole's a huge part of this. He's always seen a vision with this, and even part of the leadership team, Tara Bevelo and Margaret Manley being on there, Barb Overton as well. From them to Dwight Duke, to Ron Baggett, to I'm trying to think of some others that was on the board, Buzzy. There's been so many different people that has been pushing this to make this a goal.
Well, and that's what I think is so remarkable, TJ, because, you know, what I thought was perfectly stated in this write-up by Bob, Mr. Coles, is the fact that, you know, it seems like the communities like your guys is that, you know, are under that 26,000 or whatever the population cap is. It seems like you guys have to work a million times harder than everybody else just to make a little bit of progress. And I'm sure that made this even more bittersweet to get that groundbreaking underway.
Well, sure. And it's like anything, right? It's how much that you put in. I will tell you, for a fact, Amy Ellick was a big part of this. So wasn't Rachel Crow in providing, the bipartisanship and the support really to make this vision a reality.
Well, and that's what I think is remarkable about this. You guys did something that is pretty unheard of in today's political climate, and that was get some bipartisan agreement on something. That's great.
I know. They've been huge supporters, but and that is big kudos to Bob Coles.
Mm-hmm.
Bob, I talk so much on Bob, Bob is not only a friend of mine, even with me being on the police department in Roxana and us working together and, him showing me the ropes when I was just, young auxiliary officer there. Bob wears so many hats. I mean, he's over the city administration. He's over police chief. He does so much for the community there and bringing people together, showing the vision to our leadership, with the board and the Barb and, just to see the visions that he's wanting to do it's just been so gratifying.
Well, and that's without a doubt, because it's not, no one, I think the biggest takeaway of this, TJ, really for me is the fact that, you guys had so many hurdles, things getting thrown your way that, you guys could have easily, kicked your boots up and said, we're done. we'll just keep doing it the way it is and we'll just get by. You guys didn't. You guys put your heads down and you grinded it out until you got what you wanted. It took, doesn't matter how long it took. The bottom line is it's here now. So what is the plan with this center? What are you guys looking to do with it?
So it's just gonna be a senior center. I mean, we're gonna have we're gonna have a sound system in there. If you want to throw birthday parties, if you want to get-togethers, one of the things that Barb was trying to push was having how they do like the farmers market, just having somewhere to go. Yeah, they do it down at the Dad's Club, but if it's raining or stuff, we don't have any of that place. So to help bring it in, there's just so many different opportunities there. I look at Wood
Right.
River, right? You look at Wood River, like with the round table, that's a huge remark to them. I mean, there's been a lot of dances there, but there's also been a lot of talk about it, right? Like, why are we still keeping the building? There's a lot of memories. And that's what I see this. I see this later on, that same vision. You know what I mean? Having just a senior citizen center there to just be able to go and keep everything in house, keep everything in our town.
Well, and that's the thing, because TJ, I've said this time and time again, and I've said it for years. I'll say it for another 10 years. I think sometimes, and this isn't a shot at anybody. It's how we are, I think, as people in communities, and it's not just locally here, it's everywhere. It seems like we keep forgetting that, you guys in South Roxana come to Alton businesses and contribute to the local economy. You guys are a huge factor to a lot of business structures and a lot of, commerce. So to me, it's just like a duh moment. Why hasn't this been done before? Why haven't we been able to, support like we support other communities? But, it doesn't matter when you guys just decide you're going to do this one way or another. And now it gives us the opportunity to go to South Roxana and really utilize some space, rent it out for a party and contribute to that economy.
Well, and I think that goes back to elected officials even before me, right?
Yeah.
Like, even all the setbacks and doing all, we still had that focus and continuing faith, just like Bob more or less said, striving forward to making sure that we obtain the same vision and structure to make it happen.
True.
And that went back exactly like I said with Amy Ellick and Rachel.
Well, and to me, from you're always been a part of the community, whether in different facets. But when you started, in this position, how far, what was your kind of a takeaway from it? Was it close? Did you at the time when you got in there, or was it, to the point where it was still time to keep pushing?
It was always pushing.
Okay.
Even I remember going to board meetings, and you would hear about it, right? Like, this has been going on for a while. And then as board members left, for whatever reason, Bob reached out to me and said, listen, I think you would do great, as well as Barb. And, and that's where I'm really thankful for Greg Adams as well. I've known Greg forever, and he's a big supportive of the town. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's what we need. We need the newer developed leadership to get these positive, influential goals, set standards, and go after it. I'm not looking to score a touchdown every play, but if we keep scoring first downs, eventually we score a touchdown. And essentially that's what happened here. We kept doing play by play by play, kept scoring and making first downs, keep carrying the ball. We never fumbled. And then now we made it.
Well, without a doubt, actually, that is the perfect analogy. You were absolutely right. And with this, so we have the groundbreaking, TJ. Now, when are we going to start seeing some land being moved, some concrete being poured? Or do we have a timeline as of yet?
That I don't. I know that we're in the process of getting some bids. We did have a bid, and then due to this doing groundbreaking and cost stuff and everything rising, inflation, we are going to have to present that with the board to get some newer bids. But I'm looking for it real soon. Yeah,
and on top of this, I think a huge part that I saw in the write-up that Mr. Coles submitted to us is the fact that this is the first ever community type of center of complex that South Roxana's had. Correct?
That's correct.
Wow.
That's 100% correct. And you think about that, right? Like, you think about all the infrastructures that go on all around us. And it's like, man, this is a big deal.
Exactly. And that's why, to me, it was just baffling. When I initially read this, TJ, I went, well, why haven't we done something to give this, to South Roxana or help provide this before? And then, after talking to a few folks, I understood. But, my question is with you, you're a younger guy and you're very passionate about this community. what are your goals? You know, you get this senior citizen center up and running, or you're getting it developed, the groundwork getting laid. After it's developed, after it's done, is this just step one for you guys? Is there an end, not an end game, but an end, roadmap that you guys have in front of you?
Well, no, I mean, there's so many opportunities to try to get new business in town, right?
Right.
And that's really the driven that's the driven vision I have is when we get this initially going, what is the next phase? What is the next step? Where can we go from here? Because this is huge, right? So you can't go back. So let's build on for this. You know what I mean?
Right.
Even like in some of the board meetings, we're tearing some things down to get new develop in. So there is a lot of stuff in the works to help this small community, and that's what I love about it. I love the school district. I love my town. I was a firefighter at town. I love my town, and Bob and the compassion that he pulls and all the duties that dude does is just insane. I mean, I see it firsthand. The amount of overtime or a shorthanded staff with the police department, or he's always out willing to do something. I mean, you don't see a city administrative, police chief, any other hats that he wears. If the mayor's on vacation, he has to play that role. And then a sewer break at 3:00 in the morning, and he's out there, help digging a ditch or cleaning out grates with us, and I do the same. I'll get right out there with the city workers. I'm not afraid, we get out there and we work together as a team.
Well, you segued my last thought and my last point to you perfectly, TJ, because that's what I'm kind of getting out of this. In politics, no matter where you are, there's always, a disagreement on a thing or two, but this is, to me, not just a blueprint, but this is like a rubric or an outline of what, a board working together to better the community looks like. I mean, you guys really stuck together on this and persevered.
Yeah. And Tara and Margaret, Barb, they've been on the board a long time. Dwight Duke does a fantastic job working with Bob Coles, really trying to get the vision, even with the police department, right? Not just with the town, trying to always develop to make positive growth. And that's what we need in this town. We need to stay positive. We need to remain focused and really keep driving that vision and understand, this senior citizen center, this is not one person. This is just not just a board that's in that picture.
Right.
There are so many different people, even if they're not on the board or whatever, it may be why they left, take all that out of it. There's been a lot of hands in creating this. And that's what I want to do going forward. I want hands involved, feet on the ground to keep driving to be more successful in our town. But this the due diligence on Bob's part on making sure that we're getting grants and, because we're a small town. We we don't have that big Edwardsville money, right?
Right.
So,
Good point.
So yes, I mean, so we have to drive, and that's big kudos to Rachel and Amy too. I mean, to be able to help and see us little people and realize that we're not giving up.
That's a great point, TJ. And like I said, I am so excited to talk about all the developments you guys have, because I keep telling people, I do talk a lot about things that happen, Alton, Edwardsville, but the Riverbend's made up of everybody, including, you guys in South Roxana that support everybody else's businesses and venues. And it's time for us to do the same too. What's the best way for us to follow along with updates on the Village of South Roxana?
So you can always email Bob Coles, bcoles at southroxana.org, as well as Barb, as well, her being the mayor. But our phone number is always open, 618-254-7460. So I mean it's fantastic, and we're always looking for better opportunities, and it's just this turned out fantastic.
Absolutely. And TJ, I have one last question.
Uh-oh, here we go.
You got to come back on whenever we get some dirt moved, some concrete poured, and some more developments happening. And you gotta shout me out again in another Porch Cafe show.
Hey, well, I'm gonna tell you what. You know what? I love you so much. And you know what? When that ground breaks, you will be the first to know. And CJ, I do want to take a minute. You do so much on developing everybody. You really are. You're kind of like the South Roxana on the radio. You're always striving to try to help us. And the same way with our band. We play this Friday at Roper's Regal Beagle from 7 to 11 at St. Patty's Day. You can check us out, www.porchcafeband.com. You know me personally. You know all my bandmates personally. They're my family. And you're in for a treat. A heck of a show this Friday.
That sounds like a winner, TJ. And man, thank you so much for giving me your time and the kind words. I appreciate it. At 10:51 on this 14th day of March, we got to take a quick break because we got some business to get to and wrap up at a 10 o'clock hour right after this in the heart of the River Bend.